I don't know if you guys have the struggle of like whenever you start to record a YouTube video and you're trying to find a good lighting. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Right now you're sitting in front of a lamp. It's not even a studio lamp. And there's overhead light. And I'm just aggravated because I just want some decent lighting. Greetings, Adaptations, Eddie here. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing something kind of different, but kind of and still like the book like themed or whatever, and that is I have 3 novels I think should be rebooted. Let me just put this out there real quick. These are my opinions, okay? I love the City of Bones film. I did not like Shadowhunters, so I want to see a reboot of The Mortal Instruments, but I'm going to be talking about that soon. I love the Divergent film. I kind of enjoyed Insurgent. I did not like Allegiant. And I want to see a reboot of Divergent. Everyone knows I hate the Vampire Academy film. I want to see a reboot of that. What I'm going to be saying in this video, not my way of insulting those who love the film. If you love the film or the Shadowhunters television show, great. And I've always said that it's not my place to judge someone based off of something that they watch. You know, I don't, like, if you love the Shadowhunter show, I'm just going to go about my life because I'm going to be unfazed by it because that's your opinion and that's how the cookie crumbles. And also the same with like the Vampire Academy film. People love it and that's fine. Just like for me, I love the City of Bones film. I love the Divergent film and Insurgent. And then books not part of this list include The Fifth Wave. I thoroughly enjoyed The Fifth Wave. But Percy Jackson, that's already being made into a live-action rebooted show on Disney+, so I'm not talking about that. But these 3 I will be talking about. I'm going to begin with the shorter book, Vampire Academy. So, the plot of this novel, I will read the front. Lissa Dragomir is a Moroi princess, a mortal vampire with a rare gift for harnessing the earth's magic. Her best friend, Rose Hathaway, is a vampire. A guardian whose blood is a powerful blend of vampire and human. Rose's life is dedicated to protecting Lissa from the dangerous Strigoi, the fiercest vampires who will stop at nothing to make Lissa one of them. After 2 years of freedom, Rose and Lissa are caught and dragged back to St. Vladimir's Academy, a school for vampire royalty and their guardians-to-be. But inside the Iron Gates, life is even more fraught with danger, and Strigoi are always close by. The director of Mean Girls decided to adapt this book into a film, as it says right there. Focus. There we go. We all know what happened. Vampire Academy did not do well in box office. There will never be a sequel to it. There will never be a film about Frostbite or Shadow Kiss, Spiritbound, Blood Promise. Holy shit. I'll be back. Literally, as just now, I realized that my Vampire Academy books were backwards. Oops. How I think this should be rebooted? A Netflix television series. Here's what I think of the film. It wasn't necessarily the cast that, to me, did not do well. It was the script, the directing, and the visuals. I did not like any of it. The script was so childish, so stupid in my opinion, and I just don't think it worked well for Vampire Academy. On top of that, I didn't like how just cheesy and campy they made it. Like, yes, I said this before, there are funny moments in Vampire Academy, but the book isn't a comedy. The book is a supernatural, young adult book. And I don't mind the romance. I don't mind 1 or 2 lines of, like, comedy, but it wasn't funny. To me, it wasn't funny at all. I felt no chemistry between anybody. I didn't feel chemistry between Rose or Lissa or Dimitri or Christian or Natalie or anybody. I felt nothing. This gets rebooted. I want it to be a television show, but I don't want it to have the name Vampire Academy. While yes, it is the name of the entire book series and the entire world, I don't want it to share the same title. I know that's kind of confusing, but like, for example, Mortal Instruments, when that was turned into a television show, it was called Shadowhunters, The Mortal Instruments. And we all know that Shadowhunters are the warriors featured in the books. My hope is that they will find a way to rename this series for television. That's not Vampire Academy. But if they decided to name it Vampire Academy, that's fine. But I found a list of like original titles for Vampire Academy, which I will try and find, and I will post them over my face or something like that. I think some of those names would work just fine. The original title for the film was Vampire Academy Blood Sisters, which, you know, didn't fly. It was just called Vampire Academy. I don't mind the title Blood Sisters. I think that would be fine. But as the series progresses, it's not just about Lissa and Rose's friendship. It's about the relationship between Rose and Adrian, and Rose and Dimitri, and Rose and Mason, and like a lot of like action and travel. The series does not completely take place at Vampire Academy. So I don't really like the idea of calling it Vampire Academy when it's not set at Vampire Academy. If I was an outsider that has not read the books, I would be confused by why would it be called Vampire Academy if it's not set in the Vampire Academy school or St. Vladimir's. They could change it to St. Vladimir's. That would be fine if they had to, you know, still have the school name in the title. I think St. Vladimir's would be an interesting title for the show. And also for casting, I don't mind Rose's race being changed. That doesn't bother me, because let's just look at Shadowhunters, for example. The characters of Simon and Luke and the Lightwood siblings. In the book, they're described as white. On the show, they're people of color. The Lightwood siblings are Latino. Simon is Latino and Luke is black. And I don't see a problem with it. I didn't see a problem with it. So with Rose, I wouldn't mind seeing a black girl being Rose. I wouldn't mind seeing an Asian person being Rose. A Latino girl being Rose, or somebody. I don't mind that. Now for Lissa and Dimitri, and those characters I believe should be cast as people who are Russian. I can't remember their specific race, but Dimitri's obviously Russian. So I would want someone who's actually Russian to be Dimitri, but who isn't as old as the guy that played him in Vampire Academy. That's not an insult to that actor. I have nothing against the cast. I don't. From the film. It's just, when you look at Rose and you look at Dimitri, the age difference is just so obvious and just so weird. I don't want them to follow the same formula as the film, like comedy, because there's a lot of people that said, like, you know, it's smart marketing, because, you know, if it was serious, it would be a big joke. Well, it was a big joke. It was a big joke with the marketing, because if you look at the trailers, some of their dislikes are like this long, and the likes are like this long. So there's that. And also people were mocking the trailers, mocking the posters, mocking everything. And I was going to give it a fair chance. Final verdict, I think Vampire Academy should be a television show. And also I think it would be really nice to see, you know, a different kind of vampires that aren't the vampires from like Vampire Diaries or Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Supernatural. I think what sets this apart from every other vampire world or series, I guess, is the lore with the Strigoi and the Moroi. You know, two different vampires at war. Also, another thing that I love about this, I think it would be translated well into a television series, is the fact that Rose is not the chosen one. You know, like Lissa is, or the special one. Lissa's the special one, Rose is not the special one. Which I think was very refreshing, because, you know, after reading books like Divergent, where Triss was the special one, or City of Bones, which I'm only mentioning those because I have them in my pile, that Clary is the special one because she's Valentine's daughter, and you know, yada yada yada. So I think this will be done, if done well. I think this will be a really great television series. Granted, I don't know how long it will be on, you know, Netflix for, or if it's on a regular channel. I would say like the CW. Final verdict, Vampire Academy should be a television series. And let's just pretend that none of us saw that Vampire Academy film. And the next one I'm going to be talking about is, warning, it's a shiny cover. That's Divergent by Veronica Roth. Actually, I'm going to go grab my paperback. I'm going to warn you, this paperback is kind of used. Here it is. This is like bent up spine. The colors on the back are like fading, but it's a well-loved book. Anyways, here's Divergent by Veronica Roth. So, as we know, these books were turned into films, starring Shailene Woodley, Theo James, Zoe Kravitz, Kate Winslet, Ashley Judd, Tony Goldwyn, Ansel Elgort, Miles Teller, and later on Octavia Spencer and Naomi Watts, and Jeff Daniels. This is about a girl named Triss who lives in the world who lives in the future, and this is a dystopian novel, where Chicago has been split up into 5 factions. Dauntless, Candor, Abnegation, Erudite, Amity. And all of them have their specific traits. So like Dauntless is brave, Candor is truth, I think, or honesty. Erudite is intelligence, Amity is peace, and Abnegation is selflessness. There are rare people known as Divergents who don't belong in one faction, therefore they cannot be controlled. And that's what Triss is. Triss is Divergent, hence the title. So at the choosing ceremony, she decides to leave Abnegation and goes into Dauntless. And therefore she changes her name from Beatrice to Triss and gets a bird tattoo, mine, although hers is on her collarbone. One of the reasons why I find this book so fascinating is that it teaches us about bravery. It taught us to conquer our fears, and the line by Ford is, "Fear doesn't shut you down, it wakes you up." And I love that line so much. I think that is such a great line. Now the book, so popular that Neil Berger, who's the director of Limitless, directed the first film. And it was absolutely spectacular. It was a spectacular film. The scenery was amazing. The visuals were great. The cinematography was amazing. The acting was awesome. The script worked. I loved it. I thought Divergent was a great film. And I think the representation of the factions and the Divergent sort of, I don't want to say lore, but like the Divergent sort of the definition or the specifics about it, I think work. And it was so good. Neil Berger left and was taken over by, and then Insurgent was helmed by another director whose name I completely forgot. I'll put his name on the bottom of the screen. And directed Insurgent, which did not do as well at box office than Divergent. There was just a lot of changes. Like, now I enjoyed Insurgent, and I wouldn't mind the changes because I did not like the book. Let me just say this. Completely forgot to say this at the beginning of the video. I don't like to call these things book to film adaptations. I call them interpretations because they're all going to be different from the book. Like, I think the interpretation of Insurgent, for me, I agreed with. I actually really liked the interpretation. The interpretation of Vampire Academy, no. The interpretation of Fifth Wave, I love it. Unpopular opinion, that's fine. So a lot of people disagreed with, a lot of book readers get mad when their favorite book is sort of changed drastically for the film. And I get that. When they turn Cinder into a film, and if it's like a completely different story than I read in the book, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be honest. I will be mad. Because even though that's how the director interpreted the story, that's not what I agree with, if that makes sense. Divergent, the first film, it was such an accurate interpretation of what I think Chicago looked like, and it was perfect. Insurgent was different from my interpretation of the book, and I think the director, to me, gave me a film that I really liked. Like, a lot of the scenes in the film actually inspired some of my scenes from books that I've been writing. I know a lot of people really did not like Insurgent. I thought it was good, but there's that. Then we get to Allegiant, which I did not like at all. I did not like Allegiant. I loved the Allegiant book. I do. The Allegiant film was such a different story, and the whatever it's called, I forgot what it's called, but the base that they go to after they go beyond the wall. I didn't like anything of Allegiant. I mean, except for like the final battle and the camo suits and the eyepiece, I think that worked. I think them going up the wall at the beginning was really well done, but everything else just did not work for me. And that ultimately flopped the rest of the series, or the series as a whole, and part 2, which is called Ascendant, was canceled. In my opinion, I think there's another chance to reboot or reawaken this series. And I think this would be a really good television series as well. And here's the thing. I believe, in my opinion, that even though Divergent, the book, how it's written and how it's portrayed, definitely works for a film. And the first film was excellent. Excellent film. However, after thinking about it, as the series progresses, I believe this would be a really fun 3-part series for possibly like HBO or CW or even Fox. And I think it would be really interesting to see like a different version of Dauntless or a different version of Abnegation or, you know, Erudite or Candor. I think one of the things that I really did not like about Insurgent is that we didn't get to see Candor that much. We didn't get to see Amity or Candor that much in the film. And I believe that was the same way in the book. If it was a television series, I think it would be cool to, you know, see a different point of view that's in Candor or that's in, you know, the other factions. Because in the books, yes, are told from Triss's point of view. I get that, but with and I don't mean to compare, but with the Hunger Games, the films give us different points of views. We get to see from the Capitol's point of view, and we get to see from Katniss's point of view. Katniss's point of view, of course, is told throughout the entire trilogy, and, you know, we don't see what's going on behind the political curtain. But then, in the films, we got to see what Snow was really thinking, and what, you know, Seneca is doing, and what Cinna was doing, and what, you know, what they were doing, and what the districts, I had to think about that, what the districts, you know, were doing during the games, you know, especially in the first film. With this, the first film was completely, Shailene Woodley was in every single scene. It's fine, because that's Triss, you know, Triss is in every single scene, obviously because she's the narrator. But with the television show, I think it would be nice to see different points of views and seeing, you know, the backstory of how the factions became factions. What was Janine doing during Triss's, you know, Dauntless testings or trials or whatever you want to call it. But then also we get to, and then also I believe we can have more of like, you know, taking our time and developing, you know, the characters and developing, you know, the factions, and also not be so CGI, you know, obsessed. For me, the Divergent trilogy is probably one of the most realistic dystopian trilogies out there, aside from, you know, Delirium, even though that they can cure love in Delirium. This, aside from, of course, from the high technology that was introduced in Insurgent and Allegiant, this is probably one of the most grounded dystopian books. And I think that how the fights were done in Divergent should be the fights for the entire series, if that makes sense. Now, for the casting, I don't really have a specific person in mind for any of these characters. I think for Triss, I think just having anybody who could pull off blonde hair would work just fine. The person I could think of is, what was her name? Catherine Newton, in my opinion, would be a really good Triss. And then for Christina, I don't really have anybody in mind for Christina. If you guys have somebody, let me know down below. So, and then for 4, I think Theo James, first of all, blessed. But 2, I think he did a really great job with 4. But I don't want somebody whose age difference is so drastically different from that of Triss. So I just want somebody for the characters, the younger characters like Triss, for Christina, Peter, and Edward and Caleb. I just want characters in the same age range as one another to play these characters. I would also want them to introduce like upcoming new actors, like with what Little Fires did when they cast the Richardson children. I think that worked because you got to see characters that, or you got to see cast members that, you know, are new to the business. So I want them to cast new people, or upcoming actors to play these characters. Final verdict: Divergent should be a television series. Finally, we have City of Bones. Now, we all know the plot of City of Bones. A girl named Clary witnesses a demon being killed at the Pandemonium Club with her friend Simon, and she finds out that she's part of a world called, you know, the Shadowhunter world, And, you know, there are characters like Jace, Isabel, Alec, Magnus, Luke, Valentine, Hodge. This turned into a film, which starred Lily Collins, Jamie Cohen Bauer, Kevin Zegers, Jemima West, Godfrey Gao, Robert Sheehan, and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, which I love the film. I do. It's one of my favorite worlds. Turned into a film, and I can pick out the flaws, but that doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the film. Then it flopped to box office, unfortunately. And then years later, ABC Family or Freeform decided to pick up the book, turn into a television series, which, you know, I have some opinions about that. BBC series for the film devices being adapted right now, which I think I'm going to watch and obsess over because that's my favorite Cassandra Clare series. Now for this one, if ever they reboot City of Bones, I feel like this could go either way, for a television series or a film. However, I don't think if for a television series, it should not be on Freeform. I'm sorry. We all know what happened. Even though seasons 2 and 3 improved on season 1, I just don't think that it would work for a book like this. Since Freeform is known for making cheesy shows like Secret Life of American Teenager or Pretty Little Liars, this world is dark. This world is dark. It is creepy. It's kind of gruesome, but it's also, there are some funny aspects to it as well. I mean, Jace's one-liners are funny. Simon's one-liners are funny. Some things that Clary says are funny. So I believe this should be probably a Netflix series if they decide again to try for round 3 of television, you know? Or round 2 of television and round 3 in general of adapting. The thing about the Mortal Instruments is that it's such an interesting world. The Shadowhunters could care less about mundanes, but they are sworn to protect the world from demons, or what are they called? Downworlders. Sworn to protect the world from downworlders. Vampires, werewolves, fallen angels, you know, all this stuff. So they're known to be, while they do hate mundanes, they are sworn to protect the world. Which was not explored in either the film and somewhat the show. Some of the Shadowhunter characters have been known to, like, in the show, have been sort of down talking or like talking down to mundanes, but they still have to protect them because that's their civil duty, or that's their moral duty, which is very interesting, you know, because it does make you think, why if they hate the mundanes would they protect them? That's just who they are. I think one thing about the film that I didn't like is that the runes were not explained well. I will say that, in my opinion, it was not explained well. I can't remember if the show explained it at all or not. I'm pretty sure they did. I probably just blocked out the show because I hate that show. I think learning more about the history about the runes will be really interesting as well. And as far as casting goes, I think anybody can be Clary. They would just have to pull off the red hair. For Simon and Alec and Isabel and Luke, I feel like their race doesn't matter. With Jace, I don't know about Jace. Jace, I believe Jace should be white. Because, you know, that's just how, you know, he's described on books and whatever. But if they cast somebody who is of color that can pull off blonde hair, I'm down for that. I just want the blonde hair to not look like a wig. Like, Dom Sherwood's hair did not look good on him. I just want someone who can pull off the snarky, sarcastic Jace that I know in the book. I think the film cast was absolutely spectacular. The television show cast, some of them were great. Then you get to Magnus. Magnus has to be Asian. Godfrey Gao, Asian, played Magnus, and Harry Shum Jr., Asian, playing Magnus. Because in the book, he's described as Asian, you know? And also Jem in the Infernal Devices described as Asian. So when I see people cast fan cast like Adam Lambert for Magnus, I just cringe because Magnus is Asian, you know, and like Maya, also the character Maya is described as being black. And then also as far as like who can create the show, and I also forgot to mention this in Vampire Academy and Divergent, I want someone in charge who's had experience with science fiction for Divergent, or vampires, or supernatural in general for both Vampire Academy and City of Bones. I don't want somebody who has no experience in science fiction or supernatural or fantasy to be in charge of, adapting these books. A world like Vampire Academy and City of Bones, the supernatural, I believe that, because there's a lot to invest in here, and there's a lot to understand, and I want someone who knows mythology and lore of vampires and werewolves and angels to be the helm of this series, if that makes sense. Or if they had to pick a director who doesn't have any experience directing a supernatural film or fantasy film or show or whatever, I want them to do their research. Either read the book or books, look up vampires or werewolves on Wikipedia, or read some textbooks, or whatever, and just get familiar with the world of vampires and also the world of shadow hunters. I want the Institute to look like the Institute that was in Mortal Instruments, the film, because I'm trying my best not to compare the film to the show, because they're two totally different versions. The film Institute looks exactly like the Institute that I had in my head. The church, the church design, the interior is like it hasn't been touched in a really long time. And to me, that's how the Institute should look. The Institute on Shadowhunters, the reason why they brought in so much technology is to hopefully bring in male viewership. It just didn't look right to me. It just didn't. I didn't like the... Sorry, I had to unzip this a little bit. I didn't like the touchscreens, the Bluetooth, the computers, I don't mind a few pieces of technology. Like, a cell phone's one thing, okay? Because Jace in the film did have a joke. Are you going to pick that up when Clary's phone was ringing? I think that was funny, and I think they should be familiar with cell phones. Because to me, in my opinion, while they are sort of away from the mundane world, they are still familiar with what's the goddamn word? They're still familiar with modern technology. But they are stuck in their ways of like using old-fashioned vampire stakes and tomes and textbooks and scrolls, and I'm trying to make sense of that. And then I also have a fear of like getting away from the Institute in New York. We have Idris, which is a fantasy world where you have to make it up with CGI or you have to go on location. And then you also have the fairy realms, and then I want the vampire look and werewolves look to be drastically unique and not like cheesy or whatever. Costuming, I'm not really too concerned about that because I have faith in the costume designers. However, that costume designer, I don't know what they were thinking about Isabel in season 1, because boo. Final verdict, television show. After thinking about it and talking it out, I think this would be a really good television show again. But a better one. Probably for Netflix. Anyways, that's going to be it from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below your thoughts. And if I didn't explain anything well, I'm sorry. I just want these books to be rebooted in a fashion where they are respected and that they're not mocked like Vampire Academy was or Shadowhunters was. And like I said, big thumbs up, comment down below. For more content, please hit that subscribe button. Pretty sure I just pointed at the wrong button, the wrong way. And I hope you guys are staying safe and staying healthy out there. Godspeed, God bless, and I will see everyone soon in my next video.